It's time for the tactics meeting. I'm your host, Dan Smiley, and here on the program, we talk about response tactics and technology. Really all things emergency response, whatever happens to catch my interest at the time. Today, I've spent all morning working on a slide deck to conduct an introduction to ICS class, and it occurs to me that there is a piece of this that is often confusing. And specifically, that is how we use objectives, strategies, and tactics. So that's the topic for today. Stay tuned. We'll jump right in. So why do I care about objectives? Well, the incident command system is objectives driven. Without an objective, there's no response to mount. So what is an objective? Well, it's the statement about the goal we want to achieve. Objectives are the incident commander's desired outcomes. What is it that we're trying to accomplish? The incident commander, or if we've gone into unified command, the unified command, develop the objectives. This is how we then communicate to the rest of the response organization what it is I want you to do, what it is that I want you to accomplish. Once I have the objectives defined, the outcomes, the goal for the response, then my section chiefs develop strategies and my branch and group supervisors develop tactics to accomplish those objectives. So it all starts with defining the objectives, our goal, our desired outcome. After objectives come strategies. So what is a strategy? Well, the definition of strategy is a plan of action to accomplish an incident objective. It's a plan. How are we going to do it? You've given me a goal to achieve, and I need a plan to accomplish it. That is a strategy. So I'm going to nerd out for a couple of minutes over strategy, because I've spent a lot of time looking at this and thinking about the term strategy, reading about the term strategy, and found that it's a relatively new term in the English language. It doesn't really appear until the mid-1790s. Napoleon Bonaparte, arguably one of the greatest makers of strategy in world history, didn't actually use the term until 1815, when he was incarcerated on the island of St. Helena, and then he used it only a few times. The term at that point was art of war. How do we maneuver manpower and equipment in the field to win a battle, which was ultimately the goal of the fight. The British, while fighting Napoleon, saw strategy as the technique for mobilizing resources on a global scale. While one of the great military thinkers and strategists of the modern age, General von Clausewitz, said that the strategy is the use of the engagement for the goal of the war. And so when we're looking at goals, that brings us back to objectives. What is it that we're trying to accomplish? So he's saying the same thing that we're saying in the incident command system, that strategy is a plan used to accomplish our objective or goal. And so that leads us to tactics. What are tactics? And the definition that I'm going to put forward is deploying and directing resources during an incident to accomplish a strategy. I've taken an objective, what I want to accomplish, and I've developed a plan on how to do that. That's our strategy. And in that plan, I have identified equipment and activities that are going to be performed in order to accomplish the strategy, and those are tactics. When I have someone in the field driving a boat, pulling boom behind them, flying an aircraft to drop dispersants, towing boom for in situ burning, those people are engaged in tactical operations. The only way that I can put a tactic in the field, like in situ burning, is to develop an in situ burning plan, develop a strategy for how I'm going to use those tactics in the field. So tactics are really where the rubber meets the road. They're where people are doing work to accomplish the objectives that have been set by the incident commander and by the unified command. Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War that strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory, while tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. So let's try to put the three together. I'm going to start with a common oil spill response objective and apply some strategies to that objective, and then develop tactics for actually accomplishing the objective. So let's look at some objectives. A very common oil spill response objective is to control the source of the spill. So that's our goal, our aim. We got oil that's coming out of a pipeline, or it's coming out of the side shell of a ship, and we want to stop additional product from getting out into the environment. How are we going to do that? Well, a strategy for controlling the source of a release would be isolation. Isolation is a strategy, right? We're going to shut in this spill some way. So what would be a tactic that we could use for isolation? Well, one option would be to turn off pumps or other prime mover devices that are applying pressure to those systems that are forcing product out. I break a pipeline, I rupture a cargo hose, my cargo pumps are still running, they're applying pressure, driving that product into the environment. One method of controlling the source of the spill is to turn off those pumps. Another tactic that I can use for isolation is to close a valve. So we can close valves. Those are tactics that I can deploy for the strategy of isolation. So my goal is to control the source of the release. My strategy is to isolate the point of release from the bulk of the product that remains, and tactic can be to turn off mechanical equipment, to close valves, to physically put in plugs, those kinds of things. You know, I was just talking to my sister, who's a big fan of Downton Abbey, and I was rattling on about objectives and strategies and tactics. And I realized that there's a great example right there in the show. For those of you who don't know the story, we're trying to keep the mansion and the land in the family, and the way we're going to do that is we need. So that's the goal. The goal is to keep the mansion in the family. That's our objective. Right? The strategy that we've landed on in order to meet that goal is to marry off our eldest daughter to the new heir so that it stays in the family. So objective, keep the mansion. Strategy, marry our eldest daughter to the new heir. So what are our tactics? Well, they employ a range of tactics in order to try to bring this marriage about. They throw balls. They have them meet surreptitiously. They do all sorts of little actions that try to bring about that strategy of marriage. And we can look at this series of events from other perspectives as well. A friend of mine who's involved in hospital emergency management, they have a series of objectives as well, as they've gone into this pandemic in order to combat the issues that arose. And their primary objective, and I thought this was a good one, was to stay open for care. I mean, hospitals don't close at 7 o'clock in the evening because you don't have staff. They don't take an extra holiday the way the school system did when they ran out of staff earlier this year. They just decided, I don't have teachers, so we're going to close. But hospitals are full of sick people, and sick people aren't going to go home at the end of the day. So staying open for care is a really big deal. And so that's their number one objective. So what are some of the strategies for staying open? Well, what do I need? I need staff. Identifying, recruiting, hiring staff is the strategy for staying open. So what are some of the tactics that were devised in order to achieve that? Well, one tactic was to pay more. We're gonna offer retention bonuses, incentives for staying. That was a tactic for keeping our staffing up. We're going to hire temporary staff, traveling staff, in order to keep the hospital open. We're going to eliminate vacations. We're going to make sure that the people that we have stay here on staff. We're going to authorize overtime. All of these are tactics designed to achieve the strategy of keeping the hospital staffed, which is there to achieve the objective of staying open for care. Let's try another one. Back to oil spill response. One of our key objectives, often our number one objective, is to ensure the safety of responders and the public. I want to keep people safe. So what are some of the strategies that I might develop in order to keep people safe? Well, the first one that comes to my mind is evacuation. We're going to take people who are in harm's way and we're going to move them out of harm's way. So evacuation is a strategy for achieving the objective of keeping people safe. So now what are the tactics going to be? Well, a tactic for evacuating people is notification. We're going to sound an alarm. It might be pulling a fire alarm. It might be getting on the radio. It might be verbal. But we're going to inform people that it's time to go. And then another tactic is going to be accountability. We're going to make sure that we know who we're evacuating and then make sure they made it to the evacuation muster point. So those are our tactics for achieving the strategy of evacuation, which achieves the objective of keeping people safe. So to sum up, an objective is the overarching goal, the aim that you wish to accomplish. A strategy is a well thought out plan for achieving that aim or goal, and a tactic is the action taken for achieving the strategy. Well, that's all the time I have here for the tactics meeting today. If you would like to be on the show or you have an idea for a topic, you can email me. The email address is podcast@thetacticsmeeting.online. Stay safe and don't do anything